Call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If everyone would please rise for the pledge. Spencer, yeah. Spencer, do you want to come up and lead us pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Spencer. All right, first on the agenda is the roll call. So let the minutes show 4 of 5 are present. Moving on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
First by David. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Moving into informational items. First is the spotlight report, which is the Quest 2019. So that would be Ms. Schiffman and Mr. Ryan, Mr. Train. Yeah, it's your left.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Baker, all these luminaries and dignitaries sitting in front of me. Tonight we're going to spotlight the Quest program. If there's ever a program that deserves a spotlight, it is this program. I've heard it described as the crown jewel of our school district. I've heard it described as a one-of-a-kind opportunity for our kids to display their talents and abilities, and lucky enough to see it firsthand. Myself, Mrs. Schutzman, Mr. Ryan, and Ms. Korstein, who are the advisors for the program. Momentarily, we'll be bringing up Abigail Daly and Ethan Crouch and Spencer Moore to talk about their Quest experience. Before we do that, though, in the last couple of months, I've had the opportunity to run into some Quest alumni. Last week at the UC football game, I ran into Allison Ingram Webb. I distinctly remember, she just graduated in May. I distinctly remember Allison as a freshman here at Walton Verona. She was a wallflower, never said anything. She was just really, really quiet and shy. Never really spoke to anybody, never really talked out in class, just really kept to herself. Not the same Allison Ingram Webb that I ran into last Saturday at the UC football game. So she's going to the University of Cincinnati. And now she is a confident, brilliant, wonderful young lady who has so much talent and ability that she never knew she had. And maybe Quest had a lot to do with that springboard for Allison. Because she was there, she went through it for 2 years, and again, it's just so awesome to see her blossom into the young lady that she is today. So she's at UC. She told me what she was studying. Not only could I not understand it, I don't think I could pronounce it, but she's very happy and very excited to be part of the University of Cincinnati. Also, a couple months ago, I had dinner with Coach Ballinger, and I had dinner with Haley Eisen. Haley's a 3-year veteran of the Quest program, and she's a senior at Georgetown College or University, whichever one it is right now. Haley has never had anything less than an A in her life. That has continued all the way through where she is at Georgetown right now, where she is studying to be an actuary. Brilliant young lady, polished. Her self-confidence is unreal. Her ability to communicate with people is unbelievable. She's still in the basketball program at Georgetown. And, you know, if you've seen Haley play, been around her, watch her play, and we've gone down to watch her play a couple of times, and all her teammates have, is my judgment, so much more talent than she does and so much more ability, yet she starts or a six man off the bench and plays most of the game. Her coach always goes to her for advice because he respects her that much, and she is extremely productive, averages double figures, overcame a blown knee a couple years ago. These are the type of kids that our school and our Quest program is producing. So, and I firmly believe that Quest, provides our young men and our young ladies with a foothold on the first rungs of success in life. And who knows what these kids are going to be able to do in their life. It's going to be a lot of different things than people my age have done. they're going to be a lot more, they're going to have a lot more positive impact due to the talents and abilities that they have demonstrated and shown through Quest. Last year we went to Seattle. This is my 5th year in Quest, and we always debate which was our favorite trip. And before this, it was Utah. Utah was phenomenal, but Seattle was. Now that I've had time to reflect on it, Seattle was incredible. And again, largely in part because of the kids, that we take on these trips. I just wish that you could see them in action, whether we're going through an airport, how they act in an airport, how they're always where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, how they're always responsible with the money that we give them to spend for their food and things of that nature. Their interaction with tour guides, their interaction with people that they see while we're on tours. We advisors, we kind of stand at a distance and watch them sometimes, and we just admire the example that they set. And they always get complimented, and people always ask about the Quest program, and we try to explain it to them, but you really can't. But their jaws drop. And your school district does that for these kids? I said, yes, they do. And then, but also our kids do this for our school district. So there's definitely a mutually beneficial situation here with our Quest program. But so proud to take our kids out of town to the various destinations that we go to. I had a handout, and I just kind of want to breeze over what the kids did. And I think what gets lost in our program is how much work our young men and our young ladies put into their research after they choose their topic. Going on 4 months of research that they put in, the binders of information that they turn into us that demonstrates the research for their chosen topic. Then, of course, we choose a destination for them, for all of us to visit while we, in this case, it was Seattle. But the work that they do is phenomenal. It's of high quality. Then they put together their presentations, their 15 to 20-minute presentations, which are, again, all of them are outstanding. And I'm just proud to be a part of everything that they do. Running through this list, you can see the topics that the kids chose last year. Abby Ryder chose chocolate making. Madison Fuchs, cultural significance of botany. Spencer Moore, the Amazon effect. Ariel Johnson, how work environments have changed. Abby Daly, who's back here today, human impact on the ocean. Emma Ryan chose glass blowing. Jade Adams chose the grunge scene, one of my favorites. Victoria Isles, the advancements of virtual and augmented reality. Ellie Sams, the Space Needle in Seattle's World Fair. A little side note on the Space Needle. When I was a teenager, I would have went up on the Space Needle, no questions asked. Now I'm in my latter years, and it's hard to get me up to something that high. So I battled all week mentally about, am I going to pull the trigger and go up on the Space Needle? I did. I'm glad I did, because it's one of the coolest things. Even when you're walking on the see-through glass floor, and I'm kind of doing that. But that was quite the experience. Annalise Butler, Samurai Culture and History and Asian Influence on the West Coast. Kylie Howard chose Entrepreneurship. Ethan Krause, the Seattle Fire and Underground. Anne-Marie Hinks, Japanese and American internment during World War II. Caitlin Sizemore chose Sea Mines. Davis Fritz, the History of Technology Companies in the Seattle area. And Cam McPherson chose Mountaineering. On the next page, you can then see where we went to. So in the chocolate making, we went to the Seattle Chocolate Factory, which wasn't quite Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but was still very cool. Cam chose, we went to Mount Rainier for the mountaineering part. Mount Rainier was unbelievable. Maybe the most, well, it wasn't the most interesting, but it was an interesting part. We're driving down the mountain from Mount Rainier, and Mrs. Shipsman displayed some tremendous driving ability, avoiding a cow in the middle of the road. Good job, Miss Shipsman.
I'm glad you didn't tell the whole story.
We'll leave it right there. Ethan, we did a tour of the Seattle Underground, a lot of basements. Kylie Howard, we were at the Pike Place Market on a busy Saturday afternoon. The place was packed. By the way, the Strunk family, Jeff Strunk's family drove up from Portland, and we had lunch with them at Pike Place Market on that Saturday afternoon. Caitlin had the U.S. Naval Undersea Museum. Anne Marie, Bainbridge Island, where we met a woman who was 7 years old when, after the invasion of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, she was taken off Bainbridge Island as a 7-year-old and put into, for all intents and purposes, was a concentration camp. So hearing her stories of all that was jaw-dropping, mind-blowing. Madison Fuchs, we went to the Washington Park Arboretum. And then Abby chose, she chose the ocean there with all the plastics in the ocean. And we were able to go on an orca whale watching tour. Wow. So, I don't know if you know about that part of the country, but we drove like an hour and a half north of Seattle and we got on a boat. And I was just expecting an open sea adventure. And we're going to go and try to find some whales. Well, no, there's just a bunch of islands off of the coast of Seattle there, all the way up to Vancouver, British Columbia. And you just kind of zigzag in and out of those islands, and they have spotters out, and sure enough, they found a pod of orcas near this one island that had just finished off a seal. So the boat takes you to about 75 yards away from the orcas, and to see these magnificent animals jumping in and out of the ocean was unforgettable, to say the least. Anna, are you okay over there?
I was trying to have your things matching our pictures, but they're not. So I'm just showing the pictures anyway.
So sorry. We went to visit the Microsoft Visitor Center. We went to the Pacific Science Center for Victoria's presentation. The glass blowing happens right next to the Space Needle at the Chihuly Glass Museum. We saw the Amazon Spheres in downtown Seattle. The Pop Culture Museum was where we investigated the grunge scene and the band Nirvana. The Space Needle, of course, in the Seattle Art Museum for the Samurai, for Annalisa's presentation. So, like I said, an amazing trip full of great memories and great presentations and efforts by our 16 students that got to make the trip. So I'd like to bring them up one at a time right now, and they can talk about their Quest experience. We'll start with our senior, or Ethan's a senior as well, correct? We'll start with our female senior, Abigail Daly. Abby?
So, like Mr. Train said, I'm Abigail and I'm a senior here at Fulton. So, Quest for me is honestly undescribable. I've gotten to do it for 2 years, and I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to do so. It's amazing, to put it simply. There's just so much about Quest that, like, while you can research something in a classroom, it's so much different researching it than it is seeing it. And like with Seattle, which was my favorite trip too, the one I went on. I researched human impact on the ocean, and I researched about orcas too, and about how we're impacting them and the negative impact that we have on them as a whole. But actually seeing them in person, it's wild, to use my millennial terminology. It's just unforgettable. I cried seeing them. And, being there and seeing the culture of Seattle, one of my fellow Quest members and I took that and we implemented it here at Walton. And Ryan and I have made a club about environmentalism here after what we saw in Seattle. As everywhere you would look, there were recycling bins, composting bins everywhere. And there were all these posters explaining like what you can put in each one. And we saw that and we were like, why don't we do that here? We can bring Seattle back to Walton and make Quest not just about 16 people that go, it can be about something for everybody, for the whole school. Because what we learn from Quest isn't just for us, it's for everyone.
Thank you, Abby. Our second out of 3 Quest reps here tonight is senior Ethan Crouch. Ethan?
So, as a Mr. Trim said, I'm Ethan. I'm a senior at Walton, and, well, simply put, best week of my summer, by far. Seattle, very good. Quest, probably the best program the school has to offer. And I think it's the best program the school has to offer because you can learn something in a class, and I'm a history buff, I love history. You can read something in a history textbook, you can look up pictures of it online, you can read about it, but that doesn't mean you understand it or the impact it has. Being able to see something that happened or hear it from the lips of somebody that experienced it was one of the most life-changing experiences I've ever had personally, because in textbooks, they're good, but like first-hand sources are always better, and there's no better first-hand source than your eyes or your ears.
Thank you, Ethan. Then our third of three is sophomore Spencer Moore.
Like you said, I'm a sophomore. My name's Spencer. And the one thing that really I felt makes Quest different than anything else is we went through these weeks collecting so much information, and the several hard work days we spent compiling it together into a 20-minute presentation. And then we got to go, and those ideas that we had and all the things were brought to life through these destinations. And all the hard work each of us put in brought us together, and we were able to make friendships that with people that we usually never talk to. And we were able to reach out and improve our lives back here through the trip to Seattle.
Thank you, Spencer. So there's three of our future movers and shakers of the Walton Verona community. Board, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. These kids can't thank you enough, and their families can't thank you enough for the commitment. We know it's a major commitment, but it's worth every penny, and we're grateful. And long after I'm gone, the positive effects of this program, sponsored by our Board of Education, but will have everlasting effects. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any of the Quest people would like to leave, you may do so at this time if you want. It's okay. You don't have to, you're more than welcome to stay if you want to.
I've been crying all day
I
because
know.
of Marty Brown.
Oh, don't cry. Don't cry.
I won't cry here.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Okay, first is the principal's report. Luke, you want to go first?
Yeah, that would be great. Just a couple highlights on here. Number one, we got month one in the books. You'll see up there, Big 3 is something that we spend a lot of time on teaching our kids. The best way to behave when they're in school and ideally out, not in school. Something that we started implementing last year with Mr. Hartman and myself that we're kind of throwing our shoulder behind a little bit more this year is this thing called the Big 3 VIP. So that's more than just a student complying to our rules. That's when a student shows some type of great act of kindness, they do something above and beyond. And that is done by teacher and staff recommendation. And a kid that does that, he gets to sit at our special lunch table on Friday, and he gets to bring a friend with him. And typically I go down to the classroom and announce that to the class and make a really big deal out of that. So, an example that I include on here is we have a student find $5 on the ground, and he turned that into his teacher because he knew it wasn't his. And I'm like, well, I want to slip that in my pocket. But the student, picked the right thing to do. And so we were really, really proud of those kind of things. We had our AR night on September 10th. We broke a record for the most that ever came. 260 was the former record. We had 282 students show up, and that's including, they bring their folks with them as well. One parent at least, sometimes two, and sometimes some siblings. So our building easily swelled to over 600 that evening. I love the AR nights. They promote reading. It, gets us in touch with the community. It is something that, our team, kind of led by Jackie Schaefer and some others, they really put a lot of time and energy into that. Fall Festival took place last Friday. We don't have like a clicker count or anything like that. I think we broke 1,000. I mean, there were so many people out there. You know, myself with my administration team, as well as the PTA and our school resource officer, we kind of got our collective brain power together to figure out what is the best way to do this logistically to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with parking. It becomes a little bit limited. And then what's the best way where we need to station certain people to make sure that we're safe. And I mean, it went off without a hitch. And when you have that many people kind of flooding into one area that is, you know, one way in and a one way out, I was really, really proud of our staff and the community show up for that. Fall math testing window is finished, and we are looking at that data. Right now, we are comparing, you know, what we looked like this point last year in the fall compared to where we are right now. The numbers are running pretty similar to where they are. But one of the other things that we're doing is we're trying to encourage the students to take ownership of not just their math testing, but their own personal academics. And if you go through our hallways, you can start seeing different displays that the teachers are leading their classes in, where the students are saying, all right, this is my starting point of what I did, you know, for reading or for math this year. And they're going to track their progress in a visual display for them to be able to see and be excited about that. And that is on top of them also working on their own personal data tracking that isn't just math data, but it's their own academic data as well. Just, you know, personal aside story, last year my son, I knew this work was starting to take place with our teachers, but my son, who was in 4th grade last year, brought home a piece of paper from a math test that he got from his teacher. So it was the math test, and then on top of the piece of paper, it had 2 little columns on it. And the column on the left was his pre-test, the column on the right was his post-test. And I said, Harris, why don't you explain this to me? He's like, well, this is what I did on the pre-test. I got 1 question right. I didn't know it very well. I went through it, and this is what I did on the post-test. I got everything right except for 1, but I know what I did wrong on the one I missed. And so he's able to articulate, like, I started here, and now I'm here, and I'm learning. And there's a lot of research that goes behind if students can take that ownership of their own learning. I mean, that's the biggest bang for your buck in terms of education. And you know, we're trying to really push that with our kids and with our teachers. Mr. Collin and myself will be starting observations here pretty soon. We had our SBDM meeting for September that took place, and we're going to have parent conferences that are coming up here pretty soon at the beginning of November, and we got a pretty good plan in place for how we're going to handle that. So that's what's happening at the elementary school.
Questions for Luke?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great, thank you. Mr. Reisner?
I'd like to say a couple things about the Quest program. I've had 2 daughters that have had an opportunity to be a part of that, and the experience is awesome. You can't replicate that in any way of teaching a kid how to travel. Emma and Abby, when we go to the airport now, we weren't big travelers, but when we go to the airport, Tricia and I are left behind. They just go. They have no fear of that. That's something that you can't teach a kid without actually doing it. But another thing that kind of popped up with Emma doing scholarship interviews, we traveled around, did the interview circuit, and one of the big interview questions was, have you been a part of a comprehensive research-based project? And, you know, I think back to, you know, here at school, and I was like, oh man, have you? And then I'm like, Quest, you know, that's a comprehensive research-based project. So that was one, I think that was an advantage that we give our kids that, I don't know if that gave Emma the edge, I don't know. But, you know, I think that was another thing that was a plus that these colleges are looking for when they're interviewing kids. They want the best of the best, and that just gives our kids another opportunity. So I thank you for that too, because that might have been a bump for him as well. I'm just going to jump into a spotlight for us, and you got Eric's notes here. I have some handouts here. I'm going to talk a little bit about our social emotional program that we've recently started this year. And first I'm going to start off by giving you a letter that we sent out to parents. And if you're a parent of middle school students, Ms. Jones, you probably got these. You guys got these as well. And it kind of explains our program, and Kristen has been the kind of outlet for this. So I just wanted to kind of let you see this and what's going on. And This program kind of deals with a lot of stuff that we always talk about when we're talking about our kids are struggling. You know, things from bullying to growth mindset to doing your best, being respectful to others. We kind of talk about it a lot, and we were like, you know, we have to provide that because we're not seeing those things. We talk about it all the time. Bullying's at the top of our list a lot of times. You guys hear it. So this program is a research-based program that deals with, it's more of a mentoring program. That's kind of it's a social emotional program, but I see it more as mentoring. What we've done is we've made our schedule Fridays, SEL time. We have every group that goes on Friday for 30 minutes. 8th grade's a little different because, as you guys know, we had to change our schedule up and add another class. But 5 through 7 has class sizes of 10 to 20. So we've lowered the sizes using the Encore team to do that. So it's more an intimate, more personal kind of a situation where kids are given scenarios. 5th grade, here's a copy of our manual, and I'll pass that. Here's the bullying section that is 5th grade. 6, 7, and 8 is all online, more appropriate for what they're used to. So what this does is just give scenarios to kids. Teachers run through scenarios, and the kids talk about them. What do you do if? You know, how do you report when? You know, those are the kind of things that our kids maybe aren't coming to school with, or maybe they are from home, but it's a new situation that we have to address. So this is, I think, probably one of our largest initiatives, probably most important to me right now, because it is giving kids answers that they're seeking, but they're maybe not asking parents. They're maybe not asking, you know, adults in the building, but we're bringing them up. So take a look through those. If you have questions about those, you three can ask your sons or daughters on Friday. Just ask them, say, what was your SEL lesson today? And see what they say, because I think that's important for a discussion to happen too. So ask your kids.
What day did 8th graders go?
Say that.
What-
Friday as well. Their schedule's just a tad bit different because they have that set that 6 encores or 6 cores, and so they don't get the extra help from the encore classes. So it's the same day, it's just a little different schedule. Still 30 minutes, approximately 26 lessons, I believe. So we're going to be running this through most of the year. Take a look at that if you do have questions. What I'm interested in long term is having kids come in, just like the Quest kids, and talking about it. You know, I think that would be very interesting for us to hear. What have you learned? What's been most important to you? And how can you use this? How have you used this? I mean, this is stuff that they can use right now. So it's that important. My thing is, our program's called Second Steps, but you know, I'm looking at it like this is the first step we have to take before we can get to the actual math, social studies, because we have to address the social emotional issues in the room that before we can actually get to the bigger picture of covering the content of math. So great program. If you have questions, Kristen's been kind of the lead on it. We'll probably have her back in. That's my recommendation. I'm going to talk with Eric and Kristen about us having Kristen back in to you guys with some kids possibly from multiple grades to kind of talk about what this has kind of done or what advantage they have gained. It's similar to Quest. I mean, when you're talking about what you learned from this, what you gained. Questions about that?
I assume this is something we plan to progress every
Absolutely.
year.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see how this turns out for the kids, like especially when you think about middle school, like is super challenging, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but my experience has always been that 7th grade is a super, super tough year. So I'm really excited to see you and Eric, your thoughts on kids as they progress from 5th, 6th, and then they're in 7th grade. Like, do you see a difference in the kids and their attitude and how they behave and interact with each other, like when they get to 7th grade, having had a couple of years of this? Like, I'm excited. It seems really, really cool. I'm glad to hear we're going to continue this through, and I'm hopeful, man.
Yeah, I think it's a program that topics will have to be repeated because we're teaching things just like we do at home with our kids. You know, I know we've all talked about bullying in our own house, but you know, we need to repeat that conversation for over and over and over. But I think when we look at it's a research-based program, I think we will see results. But here's the thing about stuff like this. The results not always come out on paper. The results, the seeds planted, maybe when the person is a young adult or an adult and they make a good decision. A lot of times kids don't come back and say, hey, you know, from that program, I was at a party and I was offered this and I made a good decision not to do that based on what you taught. Those kind of, but they'll be there. We'll know they're there. You know, it's a great program.
That's great. Bystander power. That's great.
Absolutely.
Teach them.
Absolutely. Take a look at those. If you do have questions, Eric, Kristen, or I more than welcome to answer those for you. And you know, if you're interested in coming in to see something like that, we'd be open to that as well. I've been in to see fifth grade has been the one I've jumped in. We kind of bounced around a little bit. Fifth grade, they are asking tough questions. They got great questions.
So do the kids have a workbook? Because I saw like answer these questions or whatever.
Fifth grade is more of a work. They have a workbook. 6th, 7th, 8th online based.
Okay. It kind of like reminds me of like the Leader in Me type that program. That's what kind of reminds me of the.
Yeah.
But on the social aspect of it. Yeah.
I think when I'm reminded of several programs when I see this in action, even DARE, when DARE was all about decision making. We all remember that. I thought it was a great program. Then they had some problems with research-based kind of stuff. So, but I see all those programs are kind of coming together, and that's kind of why we thought this was a better program, because it seemed to tie all that together in a way that our kids around here. Program may not work if you go to a different state or a different part of different area. So, questions? I know Eric included on there. We are analyzing map data at this point. Luke, same conversation. We're analyzing that to kind of see where that fits, and we're distributing that out to teachers as well. You probably remember Eric's giant spreadsheet that's color coded. That those have already gone out to teachers. What we try to do is continue to update those, continue to encourage teachers when you're making decisions based on kids. Use this map data to drive your direction with individual kids, not as a whole group. We have whole group agendas, initiatives, but when you're looking at one specific kid, we have enough data on them with map data. We don't have our K-Prep yet, but that's coming soon. But we do have enough data on these kids to make informed decisions directly to your kid. So that's what we're continuing to do. That's the importance of MAP. It's, K-Prep's once a year. This is the interim part that gives us a direction to go before we get to that. So that's kind of where we're at. I think Eric sent you some numbers on that. He's analyzed those, and we're pushing hard on that right now. So those decisions impact a lot of stuff. Upper level classes we give, RTI classes we give. So we're going to continue to use that data pretty heavy.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions for Troy? Thank you.
I'll steal my book back. Kyle, you might walk out here with it.
Yeah.
Might learn something. Thank you.
Might learn something. All right, Mr. Nash.
All right, so high school is in full swing. A couple of things we want to spotlight is Mrs. Hester had in Mr. McDermott from Kia doing the presentation with the parents, filling out the FAFSA online. We have a follow-up session with that on October 2nd, where we will catch anybody that didn't make the first session. He really does a good job with that. ACT meetings, Mrs. Hester has had a one-on-one meeting with every student who didn't meet either a reading, English, or math benchmark. And we have had one-on-one conversations about what their plan is to have those individual pathways to success with the ACT. Are we doing seminars? Are we doing boot camp? Are we doing those different types of instructional approaches for those? So the seminars are on the way. We have the October and the, I believe the December ACT here. So we have, we're hoping to continue that. Again, that's how we get the transition ready for academic level. Again, saves those remedial classes in college and so forth. So A lot of good things coming up. It's the One Act Plays and Performances College Fair. Mrs. Hester does a great job with the college fair. So one of the things we identified is when you have 125 seniors for a college fair, those top level schools don't want to come out for 125 kids. So we open that up, and she organizes a college fair for Williamstown. What does she do? Williamstown, Grant County, and Pendleton County come up. And then so we can offer to the reps that we have 650 seniors coming to them, juniors and seniors. So we have a lot of really good schools show up for that. That's exciting. Of course, homecoming, the game and the dance, and then Mr. Knisely's Sleep Outside All Night, Shantytown benefiting the homeless shelter of Northern Kentucky. The big thing that we want to look at, as Tricia, is the school-based scholars. When I was in high school, I took the dual credit senior English class. I graduated high school with 3 credits, and I thought I was pretty hot stuff there for a good old ag kid. But this chart right here shows what our kids are doing with the school-based scholars. And again, this is just NKU. We have KSU math for college algebra. We have our Murray State, and we have a few other tricklings through there. So our school is represented by the black bar in the graph, and then the whole program as a whole is represented by the yellow. So that's all the schools in Northern Kentucky. So not only are our kids taking a lot of dual credit classes, they're very successful in those dual credit classes. We're very deliberate about what we offer. We want to close those pathways, so it's not just take a language class here and a civics class here, but there's the common map for all the state-funded schools in Kentucky. If you close out this sector of 12 credits, no matter where you go in state, that category is closed out. So the idea of transferring credits becomes a lot simpler. Now, when you go to your private schools, out-of-state schools, again, that opens up sometimes some complications with transferring. So in the fall of last year, we had 86 kids at NKU taking dual credit, and we had 117 courses. So those kids, the gap there is the kids taking 2 classes. In the spring, 70 kids taking 96. The biggest secret out there is the summer. So those reduced credits that are a maximum of like $167, you can still get those in the summer between your junior and senior year. We had 2 students take each one class. You can see obviously, the numbers are there. But again, it's a great avenue for those kids to take that dual credit. And then the next page, Mr. Show, looks like this. There you go. So this is every dual credit class we have at Walton Verona. The yellow ones are indicated by our teachers who have gained credentials through the university to teach those classes on campus with us, which gives us a lot of flexibility because we can teach that class first period, we can teach that class third period. When NKU sends out a professor, it's usually 6th period, and we're a little more restricted on what they're going to offer us based on what they're teaching at other schools. So in total, we had a total number, again, there's duplicates in here, 362 students are enrolled, 129 kids are taking 362 courses. So that is phenomenal for these kids to, I tell the kids that I'm very open with this. I'm 38, I just paid off my last student loan payment this summer. So the more that they can get that at $162 a piece, the better it is for their long-term finances. And another thing that we owe a lot of credit to is Laura Williams at the Vocational Center. She has done a phenomenal job in the last 2 years of transitioning from high school credit to dual credit. She's worked with all her instructors to get certified at Gateway. In some cases, they're the same instructor that teaches the night class at Gateway as her teacher during the day. But kids are getting those CTE credits, dual credit as well. So, any questions about the high school dual credit, school-based scholar?
I had a couple of questions. Do you know, like, how many courses do we have now versus what we had a year or two ago?
It's,
like
I don't have the numbers of that, but I can tell you it's growing.
Yep.
The one that we picked up, right now, we have Mr. Sandlin just picked up this financial literacy. So he's on the pilot committee for NKU. He and 2 other teachers are teaching us in the Northern Kentucky area. That was the first time we offered that this year. We had to do 2 sections of it. So, which is really nice because since he's our teacher in, 2 50-minute sections, so you can do a Monday, Wednesday, and you can do a Tuesday, Thursday. So he's, teaching 53 kids in the same time constraints of the first period class where 29, 30 kids at a time usually. So we're really stocking up on those numbers. And some of those kids are then taking additional dual credit classes online individually, so I don't have that number. That's something that we could work on, but we are growing every year. We have a teacher right now who's expressed interest and is already enrolled in classes to get credentialed to teach some of the social studies or the civics classes. So they're progressing towards that. So hopefully this time next year we have some dual credit social studies classes.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I've watched it grow the whole time I've been here, and this is, I'd say this is, we talk about like crown jewels of the school, like this is certainly one. I think this is underappreciated by parents in the community. I know a lot of other schools and districts that don't have anywhere near the offerings that we have, and the faculty and staff here that can also teach these, that's great. It's a tremendous program. We're doing a great job here. I have one fun question. I don't know if you know the answer. What the heck is rivalry?
I do not know that. That is an independent. One student has taken that probably in unison with like a class they have on opposite days.
Sounds like a fun class.
It does sound like fun. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving into the construction report.
I'm going to let Emmett talk about the
Emmett?
track stuff first.
Good evening, everybody. A couple things to give you an update on. The turf itself looks good. Everybody's stopped up there earlier today. The soccer team was out there running around on the football a couple days earlier. We have a few little punch list items we're holding some paint on to get things flushed out, but I don't see anything there that looks super alarming at this point. So that all looks good. Most is an excellent company with a great reputation. The track is the more difficult thing. I think that social emotional collection of the de-escalating thing. We have a great case study. So we plug into that. We have meetings almost daily on this. But regardless, Wriggler came, the blacktopper came and stripped all the blacktop. I was actually very pleased with what I saw. If anything, they were a little on the aggressive side and gouging. They could fix some things, but they got it up nice and clean, and it looked really good. I photo documented everything. I did not see any water coming up through it. It seemed nice and dry and a really good base. We had a meeting then on Monday where the gentleman, Paul Current, came down from Michigan. He's the company that did it. So the owner himself was actually the one that's on this crew. So I feel very good that we actually have him versus one of his crew members that I'm not really sure what their experience level was. I looked at the latex solutions and everything looked like it was right and matched the specs, the brands and so forth. We detailed the mixing instructions, so we made sure we get the right mixing, detailed how we didn't want it overspray and all the different pieces, how the binder was going to go down. So I've been there pretty much for every day. Since then, watched it before it was ready, watched the filler go down, watched the binder, and I believe they got 2 coats down yesterday. When I left there, I can't tell looking at it if it was the 3rd or 4th coat, but I will be able to check total thickness because we have to get to a certain build level. But I believe it has just 1 more day where you can actually spray it. It was tacky. I actually was able to walk on it tonight. So very optimistic that this new install, I mean, my opinions, I have a fair amount of technical background and I've researched to formulate this opinion, so it's just not random, but I believe it was overspraying and a lot of vapor bubbles. We did have a fair amount of moisture coming through the blacktop, but it was unable to breathe in its normal fashion, and then we had the problem escalate. So it took me 4 months worth of research and chasing things around to kind of formulate that opinion. But I really believe that was the case. It looks a little softer on the wine, so to speak, and I think we're in a little better place. So let's see what we get. But the strategy is get this down in this super hot, dry weather is a blessing, because a lot of times, kind of October is kind of the benchmark, because they need 45 and rising. We have that. So everything is good. So we've got as good as an install as we possibly can, and now we're just going to wait until spring, and hopefully, if it doesn't do it again, then we'll just have the main ready done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's had me pretty perplexed, so I need to get through that.
Well, thank you, we appreciate it.
Yeah, page 10.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and finish up with the rest of the report.
Thank you, Emmett.
Yeah, thank you.
On the elementary room divide, we're still currently working on that. We have a fire alarm permit pulled, waiting for the fire alarm company to show up. Still waiting. They'll be here eventually. Everybody's really busy apparently. And we got the control guys, still have to do some programming, but they're also doing programming for here. And it's not doing what I want it to do at this point. So we're still working on that. When they get that, there's a few items at the elementary school that got tied up, and then that project will be completely done. Looking forward to knocking that one off. Early Childhood Center, we're still working on some punch lists. We got commissioning. I'm gonna be down there pretty much all day tomorrow, other than about an hour. We're gonna do a lot of the electrical commissioning, finishing the HVAC commissioning, check the lighting that we've already gone over to make sure they did the correct programming on it. Still hold money back on that one, obviously, because it's not done to the satisfaction that we want it done, so. I think there's some, we got, I went around with Berks and we kind of filled in the dirt spot, so we're gonna get that taken care of here in the next few weeks, hopefully, from what he told me. But he's had some issues too with crews, and he said he started with one guy is on his crew that he started with before summer. He said he's had a very high turnover rate, just constant. So I'm kind of dealing with that too, so it's getting pushed back a little bit, but they have guaranteed that it'll be done within the next few weeks, so. Middle school remodel, they're still doing some punch lists and finding some items that they didn't do, stuff that we need to work on that project. I haven't quite started the commissioning on that one yet, because I don't think they're to a point. I'm not gonna do the work for them at this point. And if I start commissioning, I know it's not to the point where it needs to be. So I'm gonna wait for them to tell me. Got a couple items left that'll be finished up on fall break, which are some of the change order items for the caulking on the windows that are leaking, the window stops for security and safety on our windows, and the finish of the flooring in the basement there. All those, I believe, are slated for fall break at this point. Along with the paving out front will be fall break. We'll have the containers out. I'm gonna try to get those fully out. I would love to have them out by the end of next week, is my goal. The flooring, I was told, I had a meeting today with the flooring contractor about the first room. They said they'll be here next week. The only thing that might be an issue is the noise from the tile scraper. So they gotta bring in an electric tile scraper, and I don't really know if they can do that during the day. And he said his guy only works till 5 o'clock. And so we have from 2:45 to 5 o'clock, because I have a feeling it's gonna be loud. We're gonna test it, but I'm almost positive it's against the ground. So I did have a conversation with him, and he said that we would discount the price if I did the work at night. So if it is too loud and he works till 5, I'm gonna go ahead and finish scraping it out. I can't imagine it taking very long with power scrape. A few hours maybe, at best. So I did talk to him about that, and we're gonna get a discount if I have to go ahead and do that, just to move this project forward and get it done. And we're holding quite a bit more money back on that project at this point. It's on his pay app, so that was on there. The paving, we'll be seal coating and striping on that on fall break, and we're gonna do some extra crosswalk work down here. So I got a couple signs that are gonna go up, and we're gonna stripe in crosswalk, and we're gonna do some glass bead inside that, and that's gonna make it reflect a little better. And hopefully, it'll give a little more warning as they're coming down the road, is our goal. If not,
We're pretty much down to the speed bumps at this point. It's not very fun in the winter time, but we'll deal with it for the safety of the kids. It's pretty much what you have to do. I have noticed that some of the kids go a little fast, but they're starting to slow down when they see people, visible people down there. You can see them hitting the brakes. So maybe they are getting the hint that, hey, I'm getting across.
And we ordered additional signage, right?
Yeah.
Farther out. that-
Yeah, we're gonna come out from it, and I'm gonna put a sign up, and then we're gonna strike the crosswalk in on the
Yeah.
back from it to try to give them a little bit more warning. And then obviously see an individual standing down there, because I think Zach's gonna be the custodian at that early childhood center, is gonna be out there every afternoon. Putting cones to block the road coming up, so people won't try to take shortcuts. And if there's a will, there's a way. They will try. The building across the road, we'll be taking that over, and we're gonna try to, I've been working with the building department to see, what we really have to get done in order to house an activity in there and get the storage in. It's not gonna be overly bad. They're gonna work with us really well, because they know that building's not gonna last forever anyway. They're probably confident that it'll tear down eventually, because it's an old piece sort of. Sure, that's pretty much what I had going on.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions about any of the, I'm gonna try to give a little explanation on the change orders and stuff, so you guys could read them. If you had any questions or anything on those. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks for your willingness to give up your evenings to get that
Project has to
done.
get done at this point.
Yeah.
I need a break. Even if I have to work extra to get it.
Moving on to the attendance enrollment report.
All right, the first month's numbers are in, and congratulations, I swear this is rigged. But
Yeah.
congratulations to the elementary school for taking the cup. By the way, we're making a new cup. The old cup has disappeared.
Danny Sullivan's house.
Probably. So we'll have it for the next time to pass around, and, but no, all three schools look really good. And we'll be closing down month 2 here tomorrow.
Just, board members, just as an FYI, I pulled month 1 from last year. And last year, at this time, we had 609 students in the elementary, so we're plus 47 students at the elementary from last year. We're plus 34 students at the middle school from this time last year. We're plus 8 students at the high school from this time last year. So we're plus 89 students so far from this point last year. Our growth has averaged 30 to 50 students per year for the last 20 years. So it looks like growth is accelerating at this point. So there are opportunities and challenges that come along with that.
I have a question, it's kind of based on attendance, and for any of the principals that are, or assistants that are in here. What exactly is our, LICE policy as far as attendance goes? Okay, yeah, feel free, anybody.
So we do have a policy on this, and I think simply put, if there are live bugs, the student goes home with information on how to treat, and then our Chris can become involved to help with kids or whatever a family might be.
So that's what I thought when I looked it up. So when can they return? Are they checked here?
The next day, they return and they're checked.
And so if it takes a couple days for it to happen again, if it's not good enough, then we just continue to continue.
Well, I mean, if with treatment, if the treatment happens, then there's no live bugs anymore. So the
Right, but if
student can
the
return
home and
during
stuff
the
isn't
day.
being treated properly, and the kids keep coming back, is what I'm saying, so they're free, but the home hasn't been treated, they come back, 3 days later, there they are again. Like, what is our policy, I mean, like, what do we, because I'm hearing from parents that there's an issue on the buildings, and so that's what was concerning me.
I can say, to my knowledge, we don't have an issue at this point.
Okay.
The nurses do a great job of communicating that
Good.
information to us. And then, of course, you know, if situation, so, we don't have any reports or
Okay.
anything like that happening right now.
Okay, good.
But, I mean, it's then, we just have to consider the student and consider the situation, all that stuff then goes into account, but.
Okay, that's the way I took it, but when the parent reached out to me, they said that the kids can come regardless, and I thought, no, that's not the case. I mean, I know
I'll also jump in there. I mean, I've seen firsthand our nurses and our frisks and any front office person will jump in there and help out with that particular issue, as icky as it can seem, you know, and be, also, we're pretty good about making home visits too. I mean, if that's what needs to happen, if it's a habitual thing, we're not afraid to get outside the school and go knock on a door, and we're not gonna go lambaste somebody in their living conditions right there, on their front porch, but, you know, we can educate them, we can, let them know, just what you just said.
Okay.
If it's not getting treated at home, it's not gonna get better
Right,
at school.
right, and that's what I took the policy, and I just couldn't imagine us not going a step further and just allowing them to keep repeating over and over. So.
I would say this too, that, a good indicator, our attendance, if we had an outbreak, our attendance isn't.
Right, that's why I wanted to ask about here, because I'm not seeing it here, and so I was like, if it's that big of an issue, you would, like you said, even if it's a day or two, you would still see the numbers down, okay? Well, that's kind of the way I read the policy, that's the way I interpreted it, but I just want to make sure that we did, you know, they weren't just allowed to come back every day and.
And they are, if they go home with live bugs, they come back and are immediately checked.
Okay, good.
Before they're able to, kind of get out
Into
of the
the-
school.
okay.
Whatnot.
Okay, thank you. I know it was a little bit off, but it was under, I was wondering, because it was the attendance part of it, so, thank you, I appreciate that. Anything else for attendance? Moving on to personnel. Did everyone have a chance to look at that? Next is the acknowledgement of trip to Spain for summer 2020, organized by Lauren Teepin in conjunction with Education First Tours.
Board members, we've discussed this trip previously, and I sent you an email yesterday. Mr. Rubenberg has advised the board to acknowledge the trip, but since the board is not paying or providing any financial support for the trip, that it simply be an acknowledgement by the board that this trip is taking place. Ms. Teepin is organizing the trip, and will advertise the trip in the school building, and we'll host a meeting here, but this is not a quote school trip or field trip, okay? And every parent will sign off on an affidavit acknowledging that. And that any issues on the trip are between Ms. Teepin and the parents. It's not really a school issue, so.
No.
It's acknowledged.
It's acknowledged.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to share with us? Any additional?
I'm excited, thanks.
I've already heard.
And there'll be no issues, not under my watch.
I believe that. All right, moving into other. Dr. Baker, do you have anything here?
Not at this time.
Anyone else have anything?
Do we get any updates on, the bridge program and how things are going there? I know we've had the turnover and.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hartman, would you like to fill the board in on?
Sure,
what's
yeah,
going on?
our enrollment, there at the bridge program, has dropped by 2 students, probably since last we spoke or last you knew of. But other than that, it's been pretty consistent. We did have a change of staff, which you're alluding to there, but, Mr. Libby stepped right in and, is helping Mr. Hester quite a bit. It seems to be a pretty good climate in there, I would say, for, this week with the change. Any transition can be difficult, but it's been pretty good this week, so. I don't know specifically, are you,
Mr. Hartman,
you know anything else?
Could you share with the board, and we can't talk about individual students, but there's a particular student that you've arranged to have a mentor come in for that student, that she's kind of volunteered. Could you talk a little bit about that without going into names?
Yeah, well, we have, one of the guys that's got a few more challenges probably than the others do. Where we've arranged for a teacher of his to come and kind of be his mentor or coach or whatever you want to call it. We have not actually implemented this yet, but she has agreed. All of you would know her, but I may be giving away the student if I told you the name of the teacher. So, but she doesn't work for Walton Bruin anymore. So once that gets started, I think that'll be a boost to this young man's confidence and hopefully propel him, even further this year. Hopefully. So hasn't started yet, but we're kind of leaving it as a back pocket idea. He doesn't even know about this yet. So, but we'll use that as our secret weapon if we need to. So, but I have touched base with her. She was very excited to be able to do that on a volunteer basis, by the way. So that was kind of a new development for us this week.
Exciting.
Mike, Hester, and I went to an alternative education roundtable forum last night, matter of fact, at the co-op, to get him a little exposure and a little networking, with some other folks who do what he does. So I thought that was important for him, and to date, I don't think he's been to anything like that yet. So that was a good first step for him as well. We'll continue doing that throughout the year as well.
Thank you.
I had, just wanted to compliment you guys on bringing in elementary, bringing the VIP, bringing the community in, and having the kids learn ownership, and then transitioning over to middle school. I think it's a really big point of success for us because I think it was missing a little bit, and a lot of parents were concerned, and I was concerned. I mean, I think a lot of us were about the social growth of the kids and the change. So I think it's really good that you guys are doing that. I can even say my son in 8th grade he's making, and in one of the classes, he's making sure that somebody's not studying by themselves, and you can do that at home and teach it, but to actually be reinforced at school, that really made a big impact to me to know that he was learning that outside of just parent, or church or something. So I just want to give you guys kudos for that. I think it's really important, and I think it's paying off. It's good to see the community involved.
Is there anyone on the audience of citizens, Rob?
There was not.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll check again. No.
Okay, thank you.
I was right.
You're usually right. Recommended board motions, the approval of the minutes.
Make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
Make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approve the order of the treasurer, the bills.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of the working budget for the 2019-2020.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions, questions, explanations?
Yeah, I was just gonna go over this top sheet real quick. Really, I'm just gonna touch on what we've changed since we passed the tentative budget. And you'll see at the top, I don't think the attachment's on there. On the first line, real estate tax, I increased it another 50,000 just based on what our property growth was to help us kind of equalize some of our other changes on expenses. Other taxes, I also increased motor vehicle by 5,000. Again, these are just kind of things to flesh out the expenses. We did lose $19,000 in income. We're not going to have the place across the street to rent anymore, so we've lost that income, and then we had an adjustment on interest. So all together, that's about $36,000 of an increase since the tentative budget. We also have increases down the bottom from the time of the tentative budget. Instruction went up about $13,000, and these are again just we had some. I would say we had more rank changes this year than I can remember. I think we had 6 or 7 this year, which is a lot, and those add up to the tune of about $4,000 a piece usually. So we had some other things like when people get hired less than budget, they kind of offset that a little bit. We also had some personnel changes at our office over the summer, and Ms. Kearns was with us for that first month of July, so we had a little extra expense while she was training our replacement. And then school admin support. That category, you can see there's a negative number there, which is unusual. That was due to school admin report. Rob, the replacement there, and his move at the elementary school created some savings because they have less experience than what Rob does. So that was good. Sorry, guys. So we saved some there. Yeah. And then plant operation and management, we had some increases. We had, Jeremy, how many custodial changes did we have this year? We had kind of musical chairs and
Four.
yeah, so we had some turnover there. And then there's a new line down here. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of in like light blue, community services. Our Frisk program falls into that. That is a new budget category for us. And we have some expenses in the general fund in the budget that we did back in May. I didn't know that was going to fall in that category. So I just added it today, actually. It's a huge pain. That is our in-kind money that we took about half of that safe money, the safe agent money that we're paying out that goes into that to support those programs. And then debt service, while I was changing that, is also a new line. That is our KISTA bus lease payments. I previously had been rolling that number into student transportation because that's really what it's for. But I went ahead and broke that out just so it's consistent with the report behind it. It's a different category. So all in all, $36,000 from tentative to working budget is pretty good. And if we hadn't had so many rate changes, we might have broken even. But anyways, feel good about it. There's some numbers at the bottom, and you can read those. Any questions?
I'm assuming since we haven't yet discussed or approved it, the bus costs for transportation are not included in
They're not, and I would have included it just with the idea that we probably would approve it, but we don't actually get the bus until the summer, so our first payment on that is in September next year. Yeah, okay. So it'll be in next year's budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin? No? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approve of change order 1, the Walton Road paving project.
I'll make it.
Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of change order 4, the Walton Road Middle School renovations.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of change order 4 for the Walton Bruner Early Childhood Center.
Make it.
First by David. Discussions, questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of the revised BG1 for the Walton Bruner Middle School renovation.
Make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Are you with me, Trish?
I'm trying.
Okay, that's why I was.
So are you on 11H?
Yeah.
Did you just finish 11H?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that?
David, Kyle, and 4-0.
Okay. So now we're on,
Aye.
okay,
Are you ready?
yeah.
Okay.
Computer's a little slow.
That's all right. That's why I kind of watched you. I'm writing them down too, so I got you.
Okay.
All right. Approval of the VG5 for Walton Verona 11 School Road property acquisition. First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval of pay application 7 for Morel Construction, the Walton Verona Middle School renovation.
I'll make it.
First by Stacy. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. You ready? Approval for pay application 15 for Morel Construction for the Walton Verona Early Childhood Center. First by David. Discussions or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the FY20 school bus purchase authorization.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions for Mr. Shadler?
Chris, what are we proposing to purchase?
We'll be purchasing a bus that's very similar to one of the four we got 2 years ago. Price slightly increased from there. The bus manufacturer now has standard option for electronic stability control and collision mitigation technology, which is now standard across the board. So, rear engine bus, 78 passengers.
Do we have any idea of the price?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something,
Yeah, it's in there. Okay.
2008, something, I think.
Yeah, well,
That could be spinners.
Spinners.
Board members, part of our thinking on this is that we need to purchase, in my opinion, one bus a year to keep our fleet as current as possible, so that if the economy takes a downturn or our growth slows down, which, you know, decreases the amount of revenue we have coming in, we can weather that storm in part by not buying a bus for a few years then if we need to. So, but we can only do that if we keep our fleet a little more current now. So, you know, my thinking is we buy one a year, keep it current. If we need to skip 2 or 3 years when things get tight, then we can afford to do that. It's part of my thinking there.
There should be, on the next motion, there should be something that has a financial breakdown of what the payments are, and it should have the principal amount.
Okay, I saw the lease, I saw
Yeah.
the lease obligation, but not a purchase. So it's one in the same.
I thought should have been one on this, but on the lease, the very last page of that should have the dollar amount.
Okay, so the lease it's the same motion as this? Yeah, I had seen that, I didn't.
Okay.
So on this motion, it's got an agreement that we're gonna purchase.
Okay.
So the next motion.
Oh, that's just the PA2 form or whatever.
That's a KE requirement before we can access the bus order system.
Okay, got it. I thought, based on the motions, we were asking to purchase a bus and then lease a bus separately. So I saw the lease agreement, so the first payment on that is like $18,000.
That's just how we pay for it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, good. And that's why I wanted to ask that was my question on the next one, is why are we doing both of these?
Gotcha.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chris? Is there a second?
I'll do it.
Second by Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is approval for the FY20 KISTA bus lease participation resolution.
I'll make it, go ahead.
First by Kyle, discussion or any more questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of formation of the Comprehensive Improvement Plan Committee. First by Stacy, discussions or questions?
Board members, according to board policy, we have to form a committee every year to write a new improvement plan. And Ms. Gregg will be heading that effort up for us. And this just allows us to form a committee and begin that work.
Yay. Construction, yay.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Will we
Second.
get an updated construction budget now that all this has gone through? Like all these change orders, will we get an updated construction budget with all of these?
The revised BG1 for the project here is that revision.
It is with all of these?
Yeah, it was, the total cost went up I think Jeremy was 115, 116,000 total, and a large part of that, what really torpedoed us from the beginning were those, these displays being missed by the engineers. So, I think that was like 89,000 and we had initially 130,000 set aside, and on a 60-year-old building, that's not enough left over to tackle those issues. So yeah, it went up about 115,000. We'll take that out of the building fund cash that we have for this year.
Okay, second by Kyle. All All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is the approval of appointment of the school calendar committee for 2019-2020 school year per KRS 158.070.
I'll make it.
First by David, discussions or questions? Maybe to appoint someone from the board?
Yes, ma'am. There has to be a board member on the committee.
Yeah. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer?
I'll do it. I've never been a part of the calendar committee.
Sure. All right, anyone else? That's good? All right, is there a second? Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next, the approval of surplus items.
I'll make it.
First by David. Everyone see the list
I
here?
apologize, yeah, you got a paper copy of this. It's old stuff that it more than likely will all end up in the recycling yard, I would imagine, and we'll get, whatever the tonnage rate is, on that stuff, but, I personally wouldn't want any of this. Stuff.
It's a great endorsement.
Yeah. But we have to go through the process, we can't just throw stuff away, so.
Right.
So if you approve this, I'll put together an advertisement in the paper to say like, hey, check out our website, here's where it's at, it'll run for a few weeks, and then at our next, regular meeting, I'll ask you to approve the results of the sale.
Any other questions for Kevin on that? Is there a second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next, the approval of field trips.
I'll make it.
First by David. Everyone get a chance to look over those? Any questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Next is adjournment. Kyle got the first. Is there a second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 4-0. 8:46, we are adjourned.